Hey everyone, and welcome back to another segment of my Project M Ivysaur guide. Today we'll be talking about recovering as Ivysaur and how to get around edgeguard attempts using the tools that Ivy has available to her. We already went over most of the tools that Ivy has access to when she's in the air in the last video, namely her air dodge, double jump, aerial drift, down air stall, and up air, which allows us to skip straight to the big difference between getting down while in the air and getting back while off stage. Ivy's only real way to recover from a significant distance away from the stage is to use her up B, which is a tether. What this means is that before we can get into the actual strategies of how to recover, we first need to understand how our tether actually functions. In most situations, Vine Whip, or up B, functions as an attack, but when it registers a nearby ledge and is within this box, it will instead tether to the ledge. If nobody is on the ledge at the time, you can reel in whenever you like, and you will touch the ledge extremely quickly. It's important to note here that you don't get intangibility until you actually touch the ledge, so you are fully vulnerable while you're reeling in. There are three main scenarios in which the tether will not work like this. First, there's a limit to how many times you can tether without touching the ground. So if you tether to the ledge twice, on the third time you'll instead go into this tether fail animation, which will bump you up a bit in the air before putting you into a helpless state. Second, if someone is on the ledge when you reel in, you'll instead be forced into this hopping animation that I refer to in this video as a tether hop. You can control your drift, but the entire animation includes 30 frames of lag in the air and another 30 if you land on the stage, making it heavily punishable. Finally, if there is some solid object between you and the ledge, the tether will not be able to connect and it will cause you to go into the tether fail animation. This is especially common on stages with slants, where it's possible to go under the stage. In these situations, you can typically dare stall to push yourself back horizontally into a position where the tether would grab properly, but it's important to keep this in mind in order to avoid accidental suicides below the stage. Okay, now that we know how up B works, let's talk about how people might want to edgeguard us, which will inform how we choose to recover. In general, there are three main places that someone might try to edgeguard an Ivy. They can go out and hit us before we've even begun to tether to the ledge. They can put out a hitbox in the hope of clipping us as we reel in towards the ledge. Or they can hold the ledge and punish the forced hop animation that we get put into after tethering. At each of these stages in our recovery, Ivy has different mix-ups and tools that she can use to make the edgeguard more difficult. But the first step to recovering correctly is to understand when someone might choose one strategy over another. In general, if a character is good at controlling a lot of space offstage or maneuvering themselves offstage, they often want to hit us before we tether, because once we tether, Ivy can move very quickly towards the ledge, and out of the space that they were previously threatening. If they have long-lasting hitboxes that they can safely use offstage and still make it back, they may want to place those attacks directly in the path that they think you'll travel through as you reel in towards the ledge. If they lack either of those things, or have an especially potent way to refresh their ledge intangibility on command, their goal will probably be to simply hold the ledge until you are forced to tether, and then punish your tether hop. Now that we know how someone might try to edgeguard us, let's talk about how to avoid each of these strategies. Whether your opponent is trying to hit you before or during your reel-in, you generally want to keep the same set of thoughts in mind. No matter what character they play, the other player can only threaten so much space for so long. And as a result, your goal is to be as ambiguous as possible about where you are and will be to make them overplay their hand. In general, you have three main mix-ups with a few variants that you can choose between depending on the situation. So let's run through those and when you would use them. First, you can use down air or your double jump to change your positioning in the air. This is great for waiting out a long-lasting hitbox if your opponent has already committed themselves to calling out your recovery, or repositioning yourself before you use up B, so that the path you'll follow as you reel in towards the ledge won't take you in the way of an attack that you think will be there. If you happen to be close to the stage, you can couple either of these with an air dodge to take you all the way through an attack and land safely on stage. Second, you can threaten the space directly around you with an attack, typically forward air or nair. Obviously you can't do this too low or you'll kill yourself, but putting out an attack will let you challenge attempts to either put out an attack preemptively by your opponent that you would have to tether into, or to simply follow you as you drift off stage and put out an attack as soon as they see you begin your up B. And third, you can mix up how you actually tether to the ledge to avoid attacks. After you tether, if you immediately reel in, then you'll move in a straight line towards the ledge, which can help you dodge attacks that were aimed at where you were before the up B. but if your opponent is waiting with the hitbox that stands between you and the ledge, you can simply choose to wait and let yourself swing on the extended tether until the hitbox has disappeared before you reel in. None of these options will let you recover for free, but when used together, they can help you to reposition yourself away from edgeguard attempts, and have a better chance of making it back to the ledge. But what happens when their game plan is to hold the ledge, instead of committing themselves offstage? Then our recovery takes an entirely different form, and can be broken down into two components: trying to get them off the ledge so that we can safely grab it, and mitigating the damage that we take if they do successfully hold the ledge and force us into a tether hop. First, let's talk about the tools that we have to force an opponent off of the ledge. In general, we have 4 big ones: Razor Leaf, Seed Bomb, Forward Air, and Up B. We can use Razor Leaf to easily put out a long-lasting hitbox that will knock opponents off of the ledge if they don't perfectly time their ledge grabs. Since Razor Leaf slows down the further away it gets from Ivy, if you space it at the maximum range, it will basically serve as a stationary hitbox that hovers at the ledge before going away. This is the hardest type of Razor Leaf to hold the ledge through because it threatens the opponent for the longest time. Generally, this is done while either falling past the ledge or double jumping to put yourself back at the correct height for the leaf to connect. And in either situation, it can be a potent tool to force opponents to at least briefly relinquish the ledge, which is all we need to quickly take it ourselves with our tether. If we're recovering from high above the stage, we can also use a well-aimed Seed Bomb to do the same thing by making it hit the edge of the stage and explode. This will knock opponents off the ledge and give us the opportunity to recover safely. If we have the opportunity to set up both a Seed Bomb and a Razor Leaf unchallenged, it's nearly impossible for the other player to safely hold on to the ledge throughout your recovery, forcing them to either give up on the edgeguard entirely, or attempt to edgeguard us directly by hitting us before we touch the ledge. The other two options are more committal, but also important ones to be able to threaten. Since opponents generally expect you to Razor Leaf from as far away from ledge as possible, for the reasons that I explained above, they tend to time their ledge refreshes around that timing, and can often be caught off guard by an aerial, typically Forward Air because it has the furthest range, that will clip them off the ledge. Forward Air is also a great way to preemptively stuff attempts from an opponent to hit Ivy before she can throw a Razor Leaf, as is common for many characters that have disjointed aerials that they can access from the ledge. If an opponent successfully holds ledge through the threat of all these tools, you have one last way to hit them without committing yourself to being forced into the tether hop and getting punished. You can trade stocks. Like I said earlier, Ivy's Up B will revert to acting like a normal attack as soon as it leaves the range where it can tether to ledge, which means that there's a very small range where you can't tether to ledge, but the sweet spot of your Up B will hit someone who is holding ledge, and it will stage spike them. This is known as an Ivysaur, and is a common tactic used to trade stocks against opponents who get lazy on the ledge after they think they've forced you to tether, and they're just waiting to punish the tether hop once it comes. As an Ivy player, it's key to understand when you can Ivysaur and when you're still within tether range, because if you can make an opponent think that they've secured the edgeguard and then Ivysaur them, or make them think that you're out of range and that they should roll on stage to avoid being Ivysaur'd, thus giving you the opportunity to tether safely, those are both great reversals of a traditionally terrible situation for Ivy. While all of these tools can definitely be avoided by a competent opponent who understands what Ivy can do off stage, they can be used to great effect to threaten or manipulate the other player into either getting off the ledge or refreshing their intangibility at the wrong time. However, even when the opponent successfully grabs the ledge, we still have some tools to mitigate how hard we're punished after being forced into the tether hop. The most important thing to think about when you're being forced into a tether hop is what your opponent can use to consistently hit you no matter if you fade on or off stage. While almost every character has an attack that can do this, some can cover every fade option with a kill move, which more or less forces you to DI on stage in order to avoid an early death, while other characters can neither kill nor combo out of their guaranteed tether punish, making them more likely to try and read whether you're going to drift on stage or off stage, and get a harder punish based on that read. Like I said, you can't do much against things that cover every drift option. Your best bet is usually to DI on stage and attempt to fast fall in the hopes of hitting the ground and being able to either ASDI down or tech. But against someone trying to read us out of the tether hop, we have 3 mix-ups to make their lives a little more difficult. First, if your opponent likes to punish your landing out of the tether hop with a grounded option rather than an aerial, you can mix them up by drifting on stage, then fading back and edge cancelling the hop to completely remove the remaining end lag. At first glance, it seems as if your drift will force you to go on stage and incur the 60 frames of lag, and this can lull opponents into either getting up early and giving you the ledge for free, or holding the ledge for too long while you edge cancel, allowing you to waveland back on stage or reverse the situation with a quick down air. Second, since Ivy's options after fading off stage out of a tether hop are extremely limited, it's common for opponents to simply continue holding the ledge and wait for you to tether again, knowing that you now have even fewer resources from which to recover. However, just like when you're trying to force them off the ledge in the first place, you can still choose to fall just outside of the tether's range and trade stocks with an up B. And finally, Ivy can actually be forced into a tether hop, drift off stage, tether again, drift off stage again, and still make it back on stage despite not being able to access her tether recovery. If your opponent is hard reading that you'll continue to drift off stage and tries to keep things simple by simply letting you kill yourself after running out of tethers, you can air dodge or up B out of the tether hop's aerial lag, and either option will give you just enough of an aerial boost to make it back on stage. This is still relatively punishable if your opponent reacts, but it can catch them off guard, and is a last resort way to avoid what would otherwise be certain death in this situation. The general point of this section, just like the last one, is that while Ivy has a relatively straightforward and vulnerable recovery through her up B, the options that she does have can be used to effectively mix up your opponents and make it more difficult to consistently convert edgeguard situations into kills against her. How you apply these mix-ups will depend heavily on your read of the situation you're in and the habits of your opponent, but knowing all of these options and how they can be used is the first step towards making yourself hard at edgeguard at any given time. That's all for this video. I'll wrap up the guide with my next video, which will be a brief overview of how to approach picking stages and thinking about matchups as a whole with Ivysaur, using the knowledge I've hopefully imparted over the series thus far. As always, feel free to leave questions in the comments and I'd be happy to answer them, or go over any of the concepts from this video in more depth than I did in the video itself. As always, you can find a link to the Ivysaur Discord in the description below. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for part 7 coming soon.